welcome to our next art lesson. This is going to be a three-part art lesson. There are going to be 3 videos total. It is titled American Primitive Scenes, and these are the materials you're going to need to get started. You're going to need your large piece of white construction paper. I'm going to work on a big canvas here, so grab your large piece of white construction paper. You are also going to only need just a pencil and an eraser. That's it, 3 things. Pause the video, go grab those 3 things, and come on back. I have Joe here with me. He's off to the side. You want to say hi? Hi. And so I'm going to go over the things that I always go over with you, the 4 basic things to have a positive mindset while we're doing our art, okay? So number 1, always try your best. Your best effort is all that I am looking for, your teachers are looking for, and what you should expect of yourself. If you get frustrated, take a deep breath, count to 10, take another deep breath and persevere, try it again. You can take a walk around the house or down the block. Yeah, you can go wash your hands. Something's on Joey's hands. You can take a walk around the house. You can take a walk out to the end of your driveway and back. You can shake your hands out, listen to a song, whatever it takes, but come on back, persevere, and keep going. Number 3, everyone's artwork is going to be different. Yours is going to be uniquely yours, and mine's going to be uniquely mine. And it's really kind of cool to see how when we are doing the same lesson, how everyone's artwork does turn out differently. And number 4, art is not perfect. So we're not looking for perfection, we're looking for fun, and we're looking for our best effort, okay? So that being said, I am gonna give you a little background about what we're gonna be doing. So this is an art history and appreciation lesson. We are going to be imitating artists who painted during the what was called the American Primitive time. This was during the earliest colonial Americans. This is in likeness of how they painted. So I'm just going to give you a little history. The earliest painters in colonial America, they taught themselves how to paint because there were actually no art schools here established to teach them how to paint. So they taught themselves how to paint, and they taught one another. So they're very untrained, primitive painters, but when you look at what they accomplished, it's pretty cool. I'm going to show you some images. I think they're pretty talented myself. They often, though you'll see in the artwork, they often don't have an understanding of perspective. Their images look really flat, their buildings look flat, their people look flat. Oftentimes it looks like the person who's viewing the artwork is looking at it from above, like coming, like maybe sitting on top of a hill looking down onto the scene, okay? So let me give you some examples. Let me show you some work. And I'm gonna show you a picture of one of the artists that was famous at the time. Her name was Grandma Moses. So this right here is Grandma Moses, and that right down below is one of her pieces. So you can tell that it really does look like early colonial America. You have dirt roads, you have horse-drawn carriages, you have a lot of farmland, really primitive homes and barns. You have a family right here having a picnic, but look at the perspective. There isn't really a lot to distinguish between things that are really, really far away versus things that are up close. So everything's kind of similar size. And the other thing that's interesting to note is that the what's that called? I'm blanking on it. The horizon line, there we go. The horizon line, excuse me, is really high. You'll see that. Oftentimes the horizon line where the sky meets the land, it's really high in all their paintings, okay? So that's Grandma Moses right here, and that was called July 4th. I don't have any other Grandma Moses. This is a guy by the name of Charles Wasaki. Okay, here are 2 of his, and you'll see here the buildings are very flat. You don't see dimension in them, and everything just kind of builds up until you reach the horizon line in the back, okay? Again, another one of his right here. Buildings are pretty flat, and they're all the same size regardless of the one that is in front versus the ones that are in the back, okay? Then you also see, 2 horse-drawn carriages. That was the lifestyle. They didn't have cars yet. So you're gonna see what the people wore, the clothes the people wore. You're gonna see the homes that they lived in, those are colonial homes. Okay, so the top one is called Gull's Nest, and the bottom one is called Nantucket Winds. Okay, he was a famous artist of that time. Another famous artist was a woman by the name of Linda Nielsen Stocks, and here are two of hers. Here you're going to see some water up here. This is the ocean. Her horizon line is really high up here and high up here as well. And when you look at the details, you'll notice the perspective that I was talking about, that everything's very flat. Also, they used a lot of detail, We're going to be watercoloring ours in. To use tempera paint would be a little bit too overwhelming for this. So we're going to use watercolor. Step 2, video number 2. So the one up top is called Herb Cottage, and the one down below is called Catherine's Cove. And this is a cove right here. This is called a cove right there. All right, so this is to give you some inspiration. And this is another one. This is by an African-American artist by the name of B. Ross. And you'll see that a lot of farm animals. You'll see that the horizon line, again, is pretty high up. Everything's really flat. This depicts something very intimate as opposed to something like this, where it was like a whole town. This is a more intimate scene in that it's just a single person's home and their barn and their farm animals. Okay, and that artist is known as B. Ross. So what we're going to do today is we are going to emulate these primitive American artists, and we are going to create our own colonial American scene. Okay, so we're going to be looking at the images. I'm going to post them on Google Classroom, and so you can look at the images for inspiration. I'm going to guide you through it. You treat this as a directed drawing, and you can emulate what I am doing and add your own style to it, but you can pretty much copy along with what I'm doing, and it's going to turn out differently than mine anyway. So a couple things. Let me make sure I have everything. Okay, so a couple things. We are going to include some dirt roads. Could be just one singular road, or roads that are pitchforking off to the left and the right. We are going to be drawing several buildings. We can do homes, we could do storefronts, we could do churches, we could do barns. So we're going to have multiple structures, housing structures in our painting. So road, structures. We are going to include something that's going to make it so we know this is colonial American time. We're going to do a horse-drawn carriage. We're going to have people, animals, and vegetation. So that means trees and bushes and flowers. So this is going to be very detailed. This is going to take time. You are going to have time to do this. So between now and the next video, I want you to spend at least 30 to 40 minutes a day working on it until you're satisfied with what you come up with, and then you can click on the second video. If that means you work on it for 4 or 5 days, then that's what you do, 4 or 5 days, and then you click on the next video, okay? So let's start. Oh, another thing you might want to grab is a ruler. You might want to grab a ruler. So I used a ruler when I kind of mapped mine out, so go ahead and use a ruler if you feel like you need to. A lot of the structures are very angular and very straight, so that might help you. Okay, so let's get started. You ready, Joe? Mm-hmm. So patient, thank you. All right, so I am going to start with a road. Again, like I told you when we were starting, that you can just follow along with me. This can be a directed drawing. Okay, so I'm going to start my road right here. I'm going to use a Sharpie. You're using a pencil. I'm going to use a Sharpie so you can see what I'm drawing. So you're using a pencil. All right, here's my dirt road. And I'm going to have it kind of fork off here. Then I'm going to have a space right here because I'm going to do some structures. So I'm going to have some space right here for my horse-drawn carriage. So I'm going to make my road come up really high like this. Okay, so this is where I'm going to have my horse-drawn carriage, and then I'm going to have my road coming through town, going like this. And I'm going to fork off in this direction. And then I'm going to come up here and fork off in this direction. and I'm going to come up here, and I'm going to kind of stop right here because I'm going to talk about how I want to do a horizon line, okay? So if I take my road and I go all the way up here, I run off the paper. I want to make sure I do a horizon line because the primitive colonial art painters, they had horizon lines where the sky met the ground when they were doing a picture of a town, okay, or a little, you know, city or village or whatnot. So I'm just going to kind of do a horizon line really high up on my paper. Okay, there's my horizon line, and I'm going to stop here because I'm using Sharpie because I want to put a building right here and maybe some trees. If you are wanting to finish your horizon line with a pencil, you can do that because you have the ability to erase. I cannot do that because I have my Sharpie. So I'm planning in my head, I'm going to have a building here and some trees. So I'm going to come down here, I'm going to do my road here, and I can make my road go off the my canvas here. I can make my road go off the canvas here. My road's emerging from underneath, and I'm going to stop here because I'm going to be doing some more buildings and maybe a tree right here. So I don't want to keep going on my road yet because I am using a Sharpie, like I said last time. So I'm going to leave some space right here for a tree and a building, and I'm going to come over here and I'm going to just kind of finish my road. My road's going to go off the paper. Again, I'm using the black Sharpie, right? So you can feel free to just continue your line with your pencil if you'd like. So I've given you my road. So this is, how are you doing? Good. Okay. So now I'm going to come down here and I'm going to plot out my building structures right here. So I am going to make this part right here a little sidewalk. So I'm going to add a sidewalk right here. And I'm going to do the little ledge of the sidewalk. Okay, I'm trying my best. Okay. And now I'm going to start with my first building right here. You can use a ruler if you'd like, or you can just do it freehand. Joey, what are you choosing?
Freehand.
Freehand. So Joey's doing freehand. Okay, so I'm going to start with the thing that I want you to really work on when you're doing this lesson is I want you to look for basic lines and basic shapes. All the things we've ever talked about when doing drawing lessons. Basic lines, basic shapes. So I'm going to start with a kind of like a rectangle or square. It's kind of, let's see, I'm going to start like this. And this is going to be the front of my house. So there's the front. I'm going to add a roof. I'm going to have a line coming down slightly at an angle. Please look to the examples that are on Google Classroom if you'd like inspiration. All the images that I just showed you are going to be posted on Google Classroom, so pop those up if you want a visual to emulate. I'm going to give this porch, I'm going to give it a porch right here. So I'm going to start by giving the columns. I don't know if it's really a porch. I'm going to do a column on this side. So a column is here, I just did a rectangle coming down, but I slanted in to come down to make it a column at the top. Do you see that? How I slanted in? And I did it to the left, now I'm going to do it to the right. So I'm going to slant in like this, and I'm going to give this a column over here. So I have a column on the left and a column on the right. Now I'm going to do the front door. I'm going to make it a big front door. Here's my big front door. And around my front door, I'm going to give it a frame. So my front door is a rectangle. I'm doing basic shapes. So I'm just going to do a frame around my rectangle and make a bigger rectangle around it. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to add a big window up top, a big rectangular window. I'm going to keep with rectangles here. So I'm going to go down, across, up, and across. And my window, I'm going to divide my window in half, like that. Put a little frame in the middle. Then I'm going to do two big rectangular windows on either side of the door. So I'm going to do another rectangle here. Now what I want to kind of talk about right now is, yes, we're adding detail, but we're not going to get too tiny. I don't want you to get teeny tiny with your detail because we're going to watercolor. So think about your watercolor brush and think about the thickness of your watercolor brush and think about how you're going to get all of the details that you're drawing painted in with watercolor. Just keep that in your mind. I'm going to do the same thing that I did here. I did a little frame right here. I'm going to do a frame right here, and then I'm going to give it a little awning up top. So I did a window on the left. I'm going to do a window on the right, a rectangular one. Now, if I am going too fast, please pause the video and don't stress out and don't go too fast for yourself. Pause the video and catch up to where I am approximately. You might be doing it totally different than I am. So do it at, I want you to be comfortable with what your plan is and with your head, and I also want to give you options in case you are looking for more guidance. You can follow along with my directed drawing, okay? So I'm going to give the window another frame here and then an awning up top. Okay, so I have the basic structure, and then I can even make my door a double door. I can put a line right down the middle, and so it's a double door that opens like this, right? That opens like this. Okay, so now I'm going to come up to the roof, and I've decided I'm going to give it 2 chimneys. One here, and one here. And up on top, I'm going to give the ledge of, and so these are squares, and up top I'm going to give the ledge around the chimney. I'm going to do little rectangles around the edge, or the ledge. Okay, and now I want to do a little attic window up here. So I'm going to do a square, but I'm going to leave it open. So I did the sides and the bottom for a square. And then I'm going to do a triangle for the roof line. Then I'm going to add a little window. Here I'm going to do it like this, I've decided. Like a half oval. And then I'm going to give it a frame that looks like a cross or a T right in the middle of the window. Okay? And then the last thing I'm going to do for the roof is I'm going to add a roof to that part of the structure, to the attic window. Okay, so I have my main front of the house. Now I'm going to add like a little side sunroom to this house. So I'm going to do a triangle off the side, and then I'm going to do a rectangle coming down, and then I'm going to give it a roof line here. Okay, and I feel like I'm done with this house right here. How are you doing? Okay, so now I'm going to connect. I'm done with this structure right here where the road was going to meet. I'm going to do 2 more structures here. These 2 structures are going to be below the road. So now I'm going to bring my road in like that, okay? Hey, Joey, will you get me a pillow? Because I'm on my knees here. So we have wood floor, and my knees are getting... Okay, so I'm going to keep working down here. And in fact, I think what I want to do is I want to get you guys a little, these go up. I'm going to get you a little higher. Okay. Just like that. That's a little bit more in view for you. Okay, so now that I've plotted my rows, my dirt roads. I have my horizon line starting here. I'm going to do a tree right here. Okay, so I'm going to just kind of come up with the branches like this, the trunk I mean, and come out and do some branches like this. And then I can have the trunk coming up here. And some branches coming out also. Okay, so I'm putting a tree in. This is the tree. I had a tree in mind. So I'm kind of doing this tree right here. That one. So right here, I'm doing that tree right there. Or a tree similar to that, a tree similar to that, these kind of trees right up there, okay? If you decide to do a different type of tree, you may do a different type of tree as well. Okay, so I'm just gonna do the branches first. I did the trunk, I'm coming out with the branches. I would like you to make sure that you have some vegetation, some trees, some shrubs, flowers, okay? So I'm just gonna keep coming up my trunk, keep doing some branches coming out. Okay, can you see my tree coming to life? And this one up here. Okay, so there's the top of my tree, and now I'm going to give it some greenery. All right. So I'm just doing some bushy leaves. So kind of look like clouds, the way you would do clouds in the sky. Okay, so I finished up my tree trunk, my branches, my leaves, and now I can connect the rest of my road through, okay? So I have my dirt road, my horizon line, one structure here, and one tree, okay? So what I want you to do is I want you to make sure you have maybe, I would say, at least 5 structures. So you could do houses, you can do storefronts, you can do barns, you could do churches, any of those things, you could do sheds, anything that is a structure. I want you to kind of think about, look at the Google Classroom images that I provided for you, get some inspiration, and then add it in, okay? So I'm going to do a barn down here. I'm going to do that with you, and then I'm going to probably do a church up here and maybe 2 more houses. So it would be 1, 2, 3 houses, 1 church, and 1 barn. So it would be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 structures is what I'm going to do. So let's say anywhere between 4 to 5 structures would be great, okay? So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to do the barn down here. If you'd like to do a barn, you can follow along with me. So I'm going to start with I'm going to come all the way down for the face of the barn right here. Then I'm going to pitch the roof the way that barns are pitched. Like that, and then I'm going to do a frame following those same lines. That's the frame of the front of my barn. Okay? Next, I'm going to bring the roof coming out this way, and you'll notice my house right there is very flat. My barn is going to look flat. So I'm going to kind of start to come out this way, but I'd like to add a little attic to my barn, okay? So I'm going to do an attic up here. So I'm going to start with a rectangle. We're looking for basic shapes. I'm going to start with a rectangle here, and then I'm going to add the roof going out this way. And then, so that is like a parallelogram right here coming off to the side. And then I'm going to add a triangle to the front. Remember, if you need time to draw, and I'm going to quickly for you, you can press the pause button and then come back, okay? So I did a rectangle, I did a little bit of a parallelogram up here, and then I did a triangle. Now I'm going to run my roof line all the way in like this, and then come out, and then I'm going to do the other side of that part of the attic, okay? and then I'm going to run this roof line. So we have a point here for the roof, a point here for the roof, and a point here. So I'm going to run this line all the way across. Okay? And now I'm going to add more details to my barn. I'm going to add a door and some windows. So let's start with the big barn door. I'm going to do a big square here, like this. And just like I did a frame for the outside of the barn, I'm going to do a frame for the barn door. I'm thinking right now, what color am I going to watercolor my barn? Maybe red, maybe brown. I'm gonna do a big double door for my barn. So here's how I'm gonna divide the doors. This is the right side, the left side. Now I'm gonna do a rectangular window up top, a big rectangular window. And barns often have like this crisscross effect through their windows. So I'm gonna do a crisscross right here. That will be part of the frame, and a crisscross coming down this way. Okay, so I just went like this. Done with that, I'm going to do a window up here in the attic, do a basic square, and then I'm going to do a frame inside that window. And this time, instead of doing crisscross like this, I'm going to do a T like this. So I'm going to do my lines coming down, and then I pick up my pencil and I come down to, I do the top, and then I pick up my pencil and I do the bottom. That's the frame coming down this way, and then I'm going to do the frame coming across this way. So the frame coming across meets just like that, like a T. Okay, so I think I'll do 2 more windows right here, 2 square windows, 1 and 2. And then I can do just a basic frame like this straight across. So I feel like I'm done with my barn. I have a house, a tree, and a barn. And what lives on a barn? Or lives on a farm and might sleep in a barn? We need maybe 1 or 2 animals. So I want you to draw at least 1 farm animal, because during the colonial times, you know, they farmed. So we're gonna do a farm animal. So I'm gonna do a cow. So I'm gonna start with the head. Whenever I do an animal or a person, I always start with the head. So if you're following me and you'd like to do a cow, then follow along with me. You can do a horse, you could do cows, you can do a sheep, a goat, you could do chickens, you could put a rooster on top of your barn. Be creative, but make sure whatever details you're using to draw your animals, they need to be big enough so that you can watercolor them in. I can't stress that enough. Details need to be big enough for you to watercolor in. That is video number 2. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put a cow right here. So I'm going to start with the cow's head, and it's kind of like a U. I think of a U. And then I'm going to give him some ears, like that. Then I'm going to do the back of the cow, and it's going to come down with a tail. So here's my cow, and I'm going to make my cow, I'm going to have it be a mama cow. Well, that's what a cow is, right? It's not a bull. So I'm going to have the cow, I'm going to make it so you can see that it's producing milk, okay? So I'm going to bring the legs down like that. And then I'm going to swoop the belly across, and then I'm going to give that little underbelly where the udders are, right there. Looks like a, I don't know what it looks like. When I'm thinking of line, when I'm doing this, I'm thinking of straight lines, curved lines. This is just a curved line coming down. Okay, I'm going to give it a back foot, and then I'm going to do the front legs over here. And bring it up, and then I can give my cow some spots. Maybe I'll do a black and white cow, and I'm doing the spots so that I know that I can watercolor them in. Okay, and then I'm gonna leave the eyes and the mouth I mean, since you're doing pencil, go ahead. You can pencil in like a real basic line for a mouth, the 2 circles for the eyes if you'd like. But don't get too detailed. All right, so I have a farm animal. If you'd like to add more farm animals, you can. I'm going to do a little garden in the back. So I'm going to do a little plot of a garden. I'm going to do a square. And inside the garden, I'm just going to do some ovals that represent crops, okay? So this would be a line of crops right here, a line, and I'll have to choose what colors I'm going to use. I have to think of the vegetables that would be in these rows of crops right here. So I'll have to use my colors accordingly. Now you could put a fence, a gate, or whatnot, a fence around it if you'd like. If you notice, they use a lot of fences, but I thought I saw, like this one right here is a good one. Okay, so this one here has a lot of fences. So a fence right here coming down, a fence here, a fence going across here, a lot of fences separating areas. So here's another one right here. So go ahead and add a fence or 2 if you'd like. I'm gonna add a fence down here, and I'm just gonna do straight line out like this, and I'm gonna have it come down like a long rectangle. And then I'm gonna do my posts going down. So I'm gonna do a couple posts going down, and then I'm gonna do posts going across, okay? You're working with your pencil, so you can do your lines straight across and then erase where they connect. I'm doing a Sharpie, so I'm gonna lift my Sharpie while I do it. So I'm gonna do my post going across, I'm gonna lift my pencil, my Sharpie, and I'm gonna, where the posts going down are gonna come in. I'm gonna do it again down here. And go ahead and look on your Google Classroom images to get ideas for fences. So I have my posts going across now, and then I'm gonna do some posts going down. All right. And then I have a pretty basic fence right here. So I have my barn, I have a little area where crops are, I have a cow, I have a fence. So I'm done with this area right here. I have a house here with a tree. I can plot out some vegetation over here. I'm gonna plot out some vegetation here. And the last structure I'm gonna do with you, I'm gonna put a church up here. So I'm gonna do that with you right now. If you'd like to do a church somewhere in your drawing, you may. You don't have to, it's really up to you. So I'm going to start by doing a rectangle. Okay, so that's going to be the long side of my church. And then I'm going to do a smaller rectangle right here where the door is going to be of the church. Then I'm going to do a triangle roof. And then I'm going to do a parallelogram right here, but I'm going to leave room to do like a little steeple coming up out of the roof, okay? So I'm going to start my parallelogram. So this triangle, this side of the triangle is going to match the side of the roof over here. So I'm going to do it at the same slope, okay? The same slope is what it's called. Now I'm going to come across, I'm going to start coming across, but I'm going to stop here for me, and I'm going to do the steeple before I keep going. You're using pencil again, you can keep going all the way across. Then if you decide to do a steeple, you can come up and erase the line that came in, okay? So I'm going to do, for my steeple, I'm kind of running out of room, I'm at the top, so I'm just going to do a little square. Usually steeples are tall and rectangular. So if you have room wherever you're drawing your church, if you're drawing a church with me right now, then make yours really tall, okay? So, it doesn't have to be really tall, but it can be tall. So, here is an example of a steeple, a church and a steeple, right here. So here's the church and here's the steeple. Okay? Is that the only one? That might have been it, yeah. So I have my square right here, and then I'm going to do my triangle steeple. And then if you can fit it, you can do a cross on the top of the steeple, and that really signifies that it's a church. Okay, and then I can just do some basic lines here. You can do some basic details. That's really up to you. I could put a window here with a square. And then I need to finish off my roof. I need to connect to the tip of my roof. All right, so I have the basic shape of my church. I can give it some church-like windows. So if I can do a straight line across, and then I'm going to do an arching window. So it's going to come up, and it's going to arch, and then it's going to come down. Straight line across, it's going to go up, arch, and down. Straight line across, up, arch, and down. And last one, straight line across, up, arch, and down. Okay, so I put 4 arching windows to my church, and then I'm going to do a big rectangular door right here. Okay, and then I can do something similar to my little sun deck right here. I can do a little part of the church coming off that looks like that, and do a little frame around it. Okay, so I did my church, and then over here I can do another little structure coming out attached to the church too. Maybe this is a room where the priest lives. I can do a rectangle, or a square, excuse me, and then frame it up like that. Okay, so that's my church. And remember what I was talking about? We could do some vegetation over here, maybe some crops. So I can do some crops here. Maybe the church has some crops that it's growing. Maybe you want to do a graveyard behind the church, some tombstones. Okay, that is very common. You can do some tombstones if you'd like. So I did some vegetation there. I can do some crops going the other way. Going vertically, I did horizontal crops going this way. I can do vertical crops going this way. Remember, pause if you need to pause, and press play when you're back. And then in my mind, I'm strategizing the colors that I'm going to use for when I do my watercolor, okay? So I have this part of my composition pretty well filled in. If you're following along with me, I'm sure it doesn't look anything like mine. It's going to be uniquely yours. But you might have a house, you might have a barn, you might have a church, you might have a farm animal, you might have some vegetation or some crops, a tree, a fence. Okay, we're doing a lot of details. Okay, I can put some trees over here. I can make them different than this one. They don't all have to be the same. This one I can do some bushier trees, maybe like some apple trees. So here are some trunks. Just do the trunks first. I'm going to do 3 of them. So there's 3 trunks coming down. And then I can do a tree going like this. Then I can do a tree, this tree's behind it. And then I can do this tree going this way. If I wanted to, I could do a tree swing with a little boy or a little girl sitting in it. You decide. But back to the way at the beginning, I was talking about the horizontal line going across, how it's really high up on the paper. Here's my sky meeting my ground, and I have my horizontal line, and I had planned that I was going to put a church here, and I did some trees, but I also have to finish my horizon line, otherwise it's going to look goofy, okay? So here's my horizon line, and then I'm going to finish off my horizon line back here, and back here. So I want you to double check to make sure you have your horizon line running all the way across. You have your road, you have structures, you have vegetation, trees, crops, flowers, whatever you wanted to put in. I'm going to leave this right here for now because I'm going to put 2 houses here. And I'm going to move on to doing a horse-drawn carriage. I want to do that so that you can see how I do it. I'd like you to attempt to add a horse-drawn carriage to your composition, okay? So we're gonna, like I discussed before, it's a very flat looking perspective when we're doing this. So don't worry about making it pop out like it's three-dimensional. We're gonna have it be flat. So I'm gonna start with the tires actually, because the tires are in the front. So I'm gonna do wheels. So I'm gonna do 2 wheels. So 2 circular wheels. So here's my circle for my wheel. 1 and 2. Okay, so you should have 2 circles. Then I'm going to do the inside of my wheel, making sure that I have enough room, making sure I have enough room to watercolor, okay? So I'm going to do the inside of my wheel, but not too tiny. I want to be able to watercolor inside. So the inside of my wheel, I'm just doing a circle inside my circles. And then you can give it, the wheels, the spokes that go all the way around. Okay, so I'm just gonna add some spokes. And those, to me, look like rectangles going all the way around and meeting in the middle, to the center of the wheel. I'm gonna do it also over here. Rectangles going all the way around. Okay, so I have my 2 wheels, and now I'm going to do the actual square of the carriage. So I'm going to bring, it's going to sit on top of the wheels. So I'm going to bring I'm going to do like a rectangle. I'm going to bring it down. I'm going to have the wheel coming out a little bit behind the area where people sit. I'm going to have the wheel coming out a little bit on both sides. So I just did a straight line down to the wheel, and then I'm going to connect those 2 straight lines to make the box, and then I'm going to connect the 2 wheels with a straight line, just like that. So I have the basic outline of my carriage. Now I can give it a little bit of a roof on top, like that. You can do however you feel you want your roof to be, and then I can do a window. A square or a rectangle for the window, and now you have your basic carriage. Okay, so we just did our carriage here, and I'm going to have somebody sitting steering the carriage, and then I'm going to do a horse that the horse is actually pulling the carriage. Okay, so I'm going to show you on the pictures. So this one right here, that's the carriage and that's the horse. Here's another carriage, and then down here, here's a carriage, a carriage right here, and the horse pulling it. Here's another good example. The carriage here, and the horse is pulling it here. Okay, so it doesn't need to be crazy detailed, just the real basic shapes of what the carriage looks like and what the horse looks like, okay? So don't get too caught up with the details, and be very gentle with yourself, because I find that we are, first of all, our worst critics. That means we're usually the hardest on ourselves. And I find that drawing people and animals can be a cause of frustration. So I want you to take a deep breath right now. Get in the mindset of trying your best. Draw lightly so that you can erase if you need to, but don't be hard on yourself, okay? So I am going to do a person. I'm going to kind of have this area where the person's going to sit. So that's where my person is going to sit. I'm going to start with the head. I always start with the head. And I'm going to have the person is going to be facing profile, looking out where the horse is. So if you see my profile here, I'm going to do a circle for the head, and then I'm going to have the back come straight down. Okay? So here's my circle for the head. And then actually on top, I think I'll put a little hat on this guy, like a top hat. And then I'm gonna have the body come straight down like this. Okay, and then I'm gonna have the back come down to where the bottom's sitting on a bench, and then I'm gonna have the legs dangling over. So here are my legs dangling over. Okay? Gosh, I really hope this is not too small. If you need to, I don't know if this is possible, you can zoom in, or I can zoom you in here. Okay, so maybe what I'll do is I'll put you right here while I do this last part right here, okay? And you're gonna notice something right now that I'm not gonna say I cheated, but I kinda did. I drew everything in before I did the lesson so that I would know what I was gonna be doing with you guys. Okay, so here is my horse, my carriage right here, and here's my person. And I'm gonna put the hands out like this, because that's what's gonna be holding the reins, right? And then I'm gonna start doing the horse. So I'm gonna start with the head. I always start with the head. It's like an oval. I'm gonna come down the neck. I'm gonna give it some ears, like triangles. Then I'm gonna come down. I'm gonna come down and I'm gonna give it a sleek back and a tail. Just like that, okay? Then I can give the horse a little bit of a mane right here. And I can come down, I can do the legs. Kind of look like rectangles or like ovals. And then I'm gonna come up, I'm gonna do the belly. And then I'm gonna do the chest of the horse right here. There's the chest, and I'm gonna have one leg popping out like it's walking. So here's the horse walking. And then one leg standing straight, okay? Here's the back leg that's straight. And then I can give it the hooves. Give it the hooves right there. And then I can connect, I can give the person some shoes, right? And then I can connect the horse to the carriage with just a thin rectangle going all the way across like this. And now my horse is connected to my carriage, and then I can give the reins to my driver here. And I can do some hands here, like that. Okay, so I have my carriage, I have my driver, and I have my horse. And I can even have the driver kind of sitting on a bench right there. Okay, so I'd like you to try a horse-drawn carriage. I'm going to give you a close-up of the cow. Here's the cow. Man, I'm really realizing that this is probably the better perspective for the iPad to be right here. You guys could have seen the whole thing. So I'm gonna leave that there. And then, like I had told you, and now you can see my pencil line, I'm gonna do 2 more houses. So what I want you to do right now is I want you to think about how you're gonna finish off your details and all your structures and your people and your trees and your animals. I want you to think about how you're gonna finish it off. And I want you to take your time and I want you to work on it for the next couple of days, a little bit at a time. And I want you to come back for video number 2 with your entire composition drawn in, ready to go with the watercolor, okay? So, you know, every day we kind of learn something new. That's like the point of life, right? You want to always be learning and always be growing as a human being. So I have discovered by moving the iPad here to show you the horse-drawn carriage that I really could have had the iPad here the whole time. So, but you would have caught me earlier with my pencil lines. That's okay. All right, so I am going to go ahead and I'm going to end the video here. I'm going to use my black Sharpie and I'm going to black Sharpie these 2 buildings in. And when you come back for the next video, you are going to see that we're going to watercolor, okay? So I'm going to give you an option. You can sign off now and just keep working. Or if you really need more guidance for drawing houses, go ahead. I'm going to keep the video running and you can go ahead and follow along with me for these 2 structures. Otherwise, I'd like you to clean up your workstation. I'd like you to put your composition, your artwork in progress in a very safe place. Put your pencil and eraser, ruler if you were using it, put it all away, clean up your workstation, and be ready for video number 2 when it's assigned, okay? So I will see you later for the next video and can't wait to see how it turns out. For those of you staying on, let's keep going, okay? So that's about 50 minutes in, you can sign off. Otherwise, I'm gonna keep going and you can follow along with me. I'm gonna do these last two right here. Okay, bye everyone who's leaving. Okay, for those of you who are staying, we are gonna do this middle house right here. So I'm gonna do a taller rectangle here. Line coming down, line coming down. And then I'm going to do a triangle for the roof line. And then I am going to do a roof line that comes up behind the triangle. So it's going to come up, it's going to be like a little triangle here on this side and a little triangle here on this side. Okay? Now I'm going to add a door. I'm going to do a rectangle for a door, and I'm just varying it up. Here I put the door in the middle, so here I decided I'm going to put the door on the left. So I'm going to do a rectangle for a door here, just like that. Pause the video if I'm going too fast. Now I'm going to do the windows. I'm going to start up, and I'm going to work my way down. I'm going to do a half circle window here in the attic, so I'm going to do a straight line across, and then I'm going to do a half circle, and then I'm going to do the frame inside. Another one, straight line across, and a half circle. Next, I'm going to do the frame, two little rectangles going off to the side. Next, I'm going to do 3 square windows up top. 1, 2, and 3. Beautiful. Now I'm going to do some cross what do you call it? Man, been talking for a long time. Some frames. Just like I did the one right here with the barn, I'm going to do them over here. So I'm going to go down, pick up my pen, and keep going down. Then I'm going to go across. I'm going to do it again here, down, pick up my pen, down, and now go across. And last time, down, pick up my pen, down, and then across. Man, I really wish I would have done this perspective the whole time with the iPad right where it is. Okay, so now I'm going to do a big window here. I'm going to do a rectangle. And come down. And I'm going to give it like a little frame below. A real long, skinny rectangle. And then this window, I'm going to partition into 3s. I'm going to do a big part in the middle and 2 small parts on the side. The way I do that is just I do a skinny rectangle right here on the left and a skinny rectangle over here on the right. Just like that. And I'm done with this middle house. Now I'm going to do the far right. I hope your right is my right. Okay, I am going to do a square here. And I'm going to do another rectangle here. Sorry, just checking if I was blocking you. Okay. Then I am going to do another one across like that. So I did a rectangle inside my square going way across. And now I'm going to do some columns like I did over here. I'm going to come down a curve, not a curve, a slanted line, a sloped line, and then straight down. And then I am not going to go all the way up. I'm only going to go halfway on this side of my column because I'm going to go across like this. I'm going to connect my columns. Okay? And then I'm going to do a slanted line from this side, and I'm going to go straight down and make another long, skinny rectangle. And connect my column to it. And then in between my 2 columns, I'm going to do a rectangular door. And then I'm going to create a frame inside this. Another rectangle inside. And this door I'm going to have a window to it. So I'm going to divide it in half, and then I'm going to put a frame in. Like this. And my windows, I'm going to have 2 windows up top. And then I'm going to do the last thing up here, which is the roof line. I'm going to do a slanted line coming down, and connect it up top. And then I'm going to do a little attic window, just like that, and then make a rectangle and then a rectangle inside. And then I'm going to add, way up high, I'm going to add another part to the structure. I'm going to do a rectangle and then a rim, like a rim around it, another rectangle. Okay, so I'm done. I can sit on this for a little bit. I'm gonna probably add some more people, some more horses, okay? Maybe I'll add another farm animal. And then when you come back with me for video number 2, we are simply gonna be checking to make sure we have a lot of detail so that we are emulating this period of time. And we are really focusing on, you know, being appreciative of this art history of American primitive scenes, okay? So click back on for video number 2 when you're ready to watercolor, and then to wrap it up, the third video we'll be using a Sharpie to go over it. So I clearly already have a Sharpie, so I will just be explaining for video 3. It'll probably be a very short one. So good job, you guys. I'm really proud of you. I know this was tough. I know that you might have felt frustrated at times, but I'm happy that you guys worked through it, you persevered, and I can't wait to see what everyone's artwork looks like. So I will see you next time for video number 2. Good luck.